There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Meridian Planning and Zoning Commission on December 6th, 2018, and let's begin with roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Holland?
Here.
Commissioner Yearsley?
Here.
Commissioner Perot?
Here.
Commissioner McCarville?
Here.
And absent are Commissioners Casanelli, Wilson, and Fitzgerald.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. We have one item that has requested being continued. And so we will open, if there's anybody here to testify tonight, we'll probably not be taking any testimony on item 4A. But with that, could I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have two items on the consent agenda to approve the minutes of November 25th, or November 15th, 2018, and findings of fact and conclusion of law for Ferguson Parking Edition. Could I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process for this evening. We'll open each item individually and then start with the staff report. The staff will report their findings regarding how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and uniform development code with the staff's recommendations. After the staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case for approval of their application and respond to any staff comments. The applicant will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant has finished, we will open to public testimony, and there is a sign-up iPad in the back, or tablet, and you sign up for anyone who wishes to testify. Any person testifying will come forward and be allowed 3 minutes. If they're speaking for a larger group like an HOA and there's a show of hands to represent that group, they will be given up to 10 minutes. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to have the opportunity to come back and respond if they desire. And after that, we'll close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make a recommendation to City Council. So at this time, we're actually continuing from the November 15th meeting, item H-2018-0107 for Alicia Court. And they are asking for continuance to December 20th. Is the applicant here this evening? No? Okay. So I guess could I get a motion to continue item H-2018-0107 to December 20th?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
Just looking at the draft here. I think we're probably okay that evening. I'll make a motion to continue to December 20th.
Yeah, let's take a peek.
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to continue item H-2018-0107 to December 20th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And so at this time, we will open item H-2018-0123, West Ada School District, and we'll begin with the staff report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The application before you first tonight is the conditional use permit for Pleasant View Elementary. This site consists of approximately 9 acres of land zoned R4 and R8 and is located on the north side of West Gondola Drive and east of North Platte Road. It's midway between West McMillan Road and West Chinden Boulevard. To the north are single-family residential subdivisions zoned R8. To the south is West Gondola Drive, which is a collector roadway, and existing and future single-family residential subdivisions zoned R4. To the east, existing and future single-family residential subdivisions zoned R4. And to the west are single-family residential subdivisions zoned R8 and R4 and North Black Cat Road. This property was annexed in 2005 and was pre-platted as part of the Bainbridge and Volterra North subdivisions in 2010 and 2013, respectively. A final plat for Gondola subdivision was approved in November 2018, not too long ago, to create a buildable parcel where the school is proposed to be located. The future land use map designation is medium-density residential. CUP is being requested to construct an approximately 65,000 square foot elementary school in R4 and R8. The proposed elementary school will accommodate approximately 650 students, ranging from kindergarten to 5th grade. And is proposed to open in 2020 if the CUP is approved. Originally, the applicant proposed 2 points of access into the parking lots via West Gondola. One was supposed to come here, and then there was just one, I think it was right here, and they are now proposing two. The fire department requested a third access point to make sure there's enough separation between the access points for emergency purposes. Parking, as a result, parking was decreased from 145 spaces to 126 with the addition of the third access. City code does require that 130 be provided based on the square footage of the building. If approved, staff will coordinate with the applicant with the CZC and design review submittal to come into compliance. The site as designed does not meet all of the structure and site design standards regarding parking design and buildable frontage. The applicant will be required to submit alternative compliance concurrent with the CZC and design review application to make sure that they're meeting those requirements. Let's see, the applicant plans to accommodate future enrollment with possible portable installation. Specific use standards for education institutions do require a concept plan for the future expansion be provided, and that should be submitted concurrently with the CZC and design review applications. Additionally, future parking needs should also be forecasted in that submittal. ACHD wasn't able to complete their staff report in time for this hearing. They did send an email to confirm that they will approve the revised site plan that includes the 3 driveways. ITD provided comment that they'd like a signalized light at Black Cat and Chinden. Staff recommends that commission decide whether that's a condition they'd like to add to the staff report or not. Let's see. So conceptual building elevations were submitted for the school. The proposed building is single story. Building materials consist of masonry, veneer, structural masonry block, and accent metal panels. The future structure is required to comply with the design standards listed in the UDC and the Architectural Standards Manual. Written testimony was received from Amber Van Acker. She's the applicant's representative and architect on the project. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions listed in the report. With that, staff will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Amber Van Oker, LKV Architects, representing the school district, West Ada School District in this matter. We don't have too much to add to the staff report. I think Stephanie's done a great job. We've communicated through this process, and we understand some of the conditions of approval that have been placed on the application, and we're prepared to go through that process and make those revisions with our CZC application. So I'll just stand for any questions that you may have.
Just off the top, just in general, where do you envision the portables?
Yeah, they'll be on, yeah, here we go. They'll end up being on this south east portion of the site, and there'll probably only be one that we will end up showing that location with the CZC application.
Okay. And any additional parking with that, or
No.
do you feel like you're, okay.
We'll end up meeting that 130 parking requirement that Stephanie mentioned in the staff report. So
Okay.
there's a handful more parking spaces that we need to be able to squeeze in, but we already have kind of a revised site plan. We can make that work.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Holland?
one question I have is on the parking lot design. I'm curious to why there's 2 separate parking lots rather than having them connected for...
Great question. What we do with our elementary school designs, it's really imperative that we have a separate parent drop-off from our bus loops, and so we like to separate those two parking, and it just makes the flow through the site, you know, that 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon when parents are coming to pick up students, that they're not interfering with that bus traffic. So we have always kind of, when the site affords it to us and we've got the space to be able to have two separate drop-offs, it just makes the site circulation work so much better.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
did I understand you correctly that you're willing to submit alternative compliance with the CDC and comply with whatever staff requires?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley?
so did I understand you correctly that you're only planning one additional dwelling for the expansion? Is that correct?
For the a relocatable
portable,
classroom, yes,
yeah.
there'll only be one. There's only really space for one.
Okay.
So we'll end up locating that on that southeast section of the site,
Okay.
and that will be noted in our CZC application.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any public testimony for this application?
There are no sign-ins.
Okay. That being said, is there anyone in the room who wishes to testify on this application this evening? Okay. If there's no more questions for staff, could I get a motion to close the public hearing on item H-2018-0123?
So moved.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0123. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Yay, a new school.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot.
in the staff report, it says that the commission should decide whether to have the light at Black Cat and Chinden as a condition added to the staff report, and I would propose that we do.
I think, how many other applications have that request in there? I mean, Black Cat and Chinden is a lot of fingers already in that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Yeah, quite a few projects have come through the city. Each one of them, there's a different trigger to require that improvement. I can tell you that staff did meet with ITD a few months ago to talk about some cost share options for installing that signalized intersection. There was an agreement reached. So right now, the way it's, I think what's happening is a few months ago, I believe that you guys approved a subdivision on the northwest corner that was required to put a signal in. We have the Tree Farm subdivision that's in their third phase. And then, of course, Costco, as part of their agreement, they have to do the signalized intersection prior to their store opening. So we have enough provisions and conditions out there to get the signalized intersection. It may not be, the timing with the school might not be the right timing, but it will happen with Costco regardless, or one of those other subdivisions as warranted. So Costco's looking to open, I think, sometime in fall 2020 is what we've heard. So that's why we posed the question to you. Staff didn't feel comfortable requiring that as part of the CUP. That's why we brought it to your attention that, hey, one of our partnering agencies has requested something that we typically don't get from ITD, and we know there's other conditions in place for other projects to provide that signalized intersection. So that's why certainly it's within your purview to require that, and that's why we posed the question to you if you feel it's relevant to, we've already have all these developments going on, but now we're putting it on one applicant to do it, and that's why we posed that question to you, to see if you thought that was equitable for the school to do it or not.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley.
Bill, I have one question for you. Is with ACHD not being able to complete their staff report, are we comfortable approving this without actually hearing what their conditions are and making sure that they get included in this CUP?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the commission, fair question. I mean, Stephanie and I talked about it. Typically, we'd like to have ACHD's comments, particularly since ACHD does look at more of those off-site improvements with sidewalks, crossing, hawk signals. We like to get that incorporated into our staff report. If it's the commission's pleasure, you can continue the project and wait for ACHD's conditions, or you can simply add a condition that says they need to comply with all ACHD's conditions. And that way, when it comes out, we'll include that as part of the public record, and we'll have that captured in the findings. It's whatever the commission's pleasure is.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Holland?
looking at the map, one more question for staff. The road that's on the south side of this development, does that exit directly onto Black Cat, I'm assuming? It doesn't really go anywhere else. It's coming out right onto Black Cat there on the mid-mile?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Holland, are you referring to Gondola Drive? Yeah, it's a collector street that stubs into Black Cat.
So I guess looking at the map and where that comes in, speaking to my fellow commissioners, I think my bigger concern would not be the stoplight at Black Cat and Chinden, but what the access looks like for Gondola Drive coming onto Black Cat since it's at the mid-mile. And I always hate to make school districts pay for the infrastructure of a major intersection out there. And certainly I'd like to see what the cost-sharing agreement might look like with other developers in the nearby vicinity. Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think Black Cat and Chinden is a little far away for them to have to deal with, especially with the other development that's going on there. But yeah, I think that intersection there at Gondola and Black Cat is of concern, would be the bigger issue for a light.
Well, and that's my concern about approving this right now is because without ACHD giving their conditions and having the applicant a chance to weigh in on it, we're basically forcing their hand to basically meet all of ACHD's conditions if we approve it, like you said. So for me personally, I would recommend continuing it until ACHD's had a chance to act on it, and then we can have a chance to meet with the applicant and talk over which ones or all, depending on what they're requesting, is appropriate.
Yeah,
Madam Chair,
I'm good with.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
I'd rather see the ACHD report and make sure that we're doing our due diligence and safety of buses coming in and out of there and pedestrians coming in and out of there, making sure that we've got it set up okay.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Do we have a realistic time frame for the ACHD report? No, it's not your.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I kind of communicated with Christy, and she made it seem like it would be fairly soon. I think her hope was to get it done before tonight's meeting, and that didn't happen. So I would say December 20th might be realistic, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, now 5 already on December 20th. Are we out of time is of the essence on this? Or are we trying to get this done? Obviously, schools needed to be done yesterday.
I don't know, for me personally, I think the 3rd would be more appropriate to give ACHD enough time to get their
Yeah, and then to revise
the staff report.
stuff. Yeah, okay,
So.
I agree. With that, would somebody like to make a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
I move to continue file number H 2018-0123 for the hearing date of January 3rd, 2019, to allow ACHD and staff to, or ACHD to get their staff report completed, and having our staff a chance to revise the staff report based on their conditions.
Do I hear a second? Oh.
Oh, yep.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
I move we open file number H 2018-0123.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to open the public hearing, H-2018-0123. And seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
I now move to continue file H 2018-0123 to the hearing date of January 3rd, 2019, to allow ACHD to complete their staff report and city staff to update their current staff report to allow for their conditions.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to continue H-2018-0123. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for H-2018-0122, TM Crossing Expansion. And we'll begin with staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Next on the agenda is TM Crossing Expansion. This is an annexation and zoning request. The site consists of 1.6 acres of land, zone R1 in Ada County, and is located at north side of I-84 east of South 10 Mile Road. Adjacent land use and zoning, we have north and east, we have rural single-family residential, zone R1 in Primrose subdivision. South, we have I-84, and to the west, we have future commercial and office development, zone CG, which is TM Crossing subdivision. This property was a lot and block in the Primrose subdivision, and at one time was designated as a public use. That has since been removed from the plat, and now this is a parcel that the applicant has purchased and now wishes to develop a parking lot. Future land use designation on this property shows LDR as far as a graphic depiction, but as commission is aware, comprehensive plan designations aren't necessarily parcel specific like zoning. So the applicant has requested to float that commercial designation to this parcel in order to construct the parking lot. Staff is amenable to that request, and if the commission is amenable as well, the CG zoning that the applicant is requesting is consistent with that commercial designation. So the applicant did provide a conceptual development plan with the annexation request. You can see here they are requesting this particular parcel would become a parking lot, which would coincide with the adjacent commercial building to the west of this site and provide some additional parking to this proposed development. The applicant will do a 25-foot wide landscape buffer and 6-foot tall fencing along the north and east property boundary, adjacent to the residential uses. Public access to the parking lot would be provided from the TM Crossing development, so the one that it's abutting to the west. And then emergency access would be from the Primrose subdivision to the east. Currently, ACHD has some designated future right-of-way in that area for a future vehicular connectivity. But for now, staff is amenable to allow that to be an emergency access until such time as that adjacent subdivision to the east would redevelop in the future with something other than low-density residential. I don't know what that is right now, but certainly it may not stay that way forever. A provision of annexation is that we are recommending a DA with the annexation request. Again, we are requiring the 25-foot wide landscape buffers and the privacy fencing along that north and west boundary, east boundary. Because the site doesn't necessarily abut the interstate, staff is also recommending a 35-foot landscape buffer along with a 10-foot multi-use pathway along the interstate that could be eventually extended with redevelopment of that residential subdivision to the east. Staff did receive written testimony from Mike Wardle in agreement with the provisions in the staff report. Staff did not see any public testimony as part of the public record, and we are, again, recommending approval with the CG zoning district, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward?
Madam Chair, Commission members, Mike Wardle, Brighton Corporation, 12601 West Explorer Drive in Boise. Well explained and simply a straightforward expansion that allows us to Actually, we've seen a dramatic change in the context of the project since it was originally annexed. It was anticipated to be largely a retail center. It's turning into an employment center with office buildings. And so in that context then, when the adjacent property was made available, we opted to purchase that so that it would again just be strictly a parking area with the required 25-foot landscape buffers and fencing. Bill did comment on an emergency access. The roadway that parallels the east boundary, just as you, and I don't know quite how to manipulate this, but you see the site plan where you have the east-west road that parallels the interstate, and then it takes a curve to the north. That roadway will continue up to Franklin in the next several years. When that roadway is improved, the emergency access, which right now is only the secondary requirement that the fire department has, that one will go away. And that existing 25-foot ACHD right-of-way will either be by license agreement landscaped. I don't anticipate that Verbena Street coming out of that 1-acre subdivision will ever be extended. We, in fact, worked with the neighborhood to assure that that would not be the case. And so it was only a requirement for at least until that roadway to the north to Franklin Road comes that there's any kind of an access at all. And there is they've just completed most of the fire access and gated it. And ACHD had kind of indicated that they didn't really want that gated on within the so-called right-of-way, but basically we're just keeping the fence or the gate where it's been since the 1970s. So we're working with ACHD on the license agreement to assure that, again, there's no through traffic coming out of that subdivision that would really cause some difficulties and challenges for our neighbors. And we've, so if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but it's a pretty straightforward request just to annex it and zone it in the context with the overall TM crossing project.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anybody signed up to testify on this application?
Madam Chair, only one person signed in. They did not indicate wishing to testify.
Okay. That being said, is there anyone in the room who wishes to testify on this application? Okay. All right. If there's no further questions for the applicant, to have him come forward. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing on H-2018-0122?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0122. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's pretty straightforward. More parking. Yay. Too bad Bill's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think buffers and all the suggestions and the emergency access, I think, as long as ACHD is okay with dotting the i's and crossing the t's on that, I don't see a problem.
Madam Chair, I agree. I don't anticipate that that's going to convert to residential at any point, considering the size. So that seems like it's a use that's conducive to the area.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley.
I agree. I think it looks good. I do remember this application when it came to the first time, and I find it interesting that how it has actually changed. And I actually like this change much better as an employment center than a retail center. I think it brings much needed jobs. Just as a note, that road to the north, with the other application that came in on the north, they actually were required to make that connection to that subdivision through that street at that point. And so this being just a fire access is probably appropriate, and potentially having it totally removed when that gets completed would be fine.
Madam Chair, no concerns here either. Bill, do we need to mention the DA in the motion? With that then, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval of the City Council of file number H-2018-0122 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of December 6th, 2018, with no modifications.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval of H-2018-0122. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is file number H-2018-0115, Warwick subdivision. We'll begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Last item on the agenda this evening is the Warwick subdivision. This is an application for annexation and a preliminary plat. The site consists of 36.22 acres of land, currently zoned RUT in Ada County, and it's located at 2445 East Amity Road on the south side of Amity, west of South Eagle Road. Adjacent land use and zoning: to the north, we have future single family, which was the Castle Creek subdivision, zoned R8. West and south is existing and future single family residential, the White Bark, Southern Highlands, Sky Mesa subdivisions, currently zoned R4, and to the east we have rural residential ag zoned RUT in Ada County. There is no history on the site as they are seeking annexation into the city. Comprehensive plan future land use map designation is low density residential, which is 3 or few units, dwelling units to the acre. Applicant has applied to annex and zone 36.22 acres of land with an R4 zoning district and an R8 zoning district, so 2 zoning designation requests. So the R4 portion consists of 19.94 acres, and the R8 portion is 16.28 acres of land. The applicant is requesting a step up with this particular development. So as I mentioned to you, it's 3 or less to the acre. Currently, as proposed before you this evening, it sits at 3.6. So not a huge step up, a minor bump, but nonetheless, it is over lines with the medium density residential designation of 3 to 8 dwelling units to the acre. There are some existing homes and outbuildings on this site that will be removed upon development of the property. The applicant has submitted a concurrent preliminary plat that consists of 130 building lots, 19 common lots, and they are also proposing a mix of housing types. So not only are we having a mix of R8 and R4 zoning, but there's also a blend of 106 single-family detached homes and then 24 attached homes, ranging in sizes from 1,350 square feet all the way up to 4,000 square feet. Average lot size for the proposed development is approximately 7,600 square feet. Amity Road is planned to be widened in the near future between 2022 and 2026. So the applicant is required to put in a westbound turn lane per ACHD's conditions, and they have to set aside or dedicate additional right-of-way to make that happen per ACHD. Landscaping is also proposed within the development, which consisting of a 50-foot wide landscape buffer along Amity Road with a 20-foot tall berm or 20-foot wide berm, parkways along local streets, and common open space, and landscaping along pathways. Code requires a minimum 10% open space with the proposed development. The applicant is proposing over 15% qualified open space, which consists of that 2.5 acre central park in the middle of the proposed development. A common area containing pathways, which is along the 10 Mile Creek along the east boundary, is required to construct a 10-foot multi-use pathway. Half of the street buffer, and then some additional common areas that were 50 by 100 in size that could qualify as open space. And then also, open space, or excuse me, the amenities include clubhouse, a pool, and then the 10 Mile Creek, and then a pond, which also counts. The staff is also recommending that the applicant include a children play structure as an additional amenity as part of the proposed development. 10 Mile Creek runs along the east boundary of the site. Because that is a protected waterway that has to remain open as a water amenity. The applicant has not proposed any fencing along that waterway. However, if the commission and council determine that it is a safety factor and would like to see fencing, certainly that should be a condition, a recommended condition of approval from this particular body. The applicant did submit conceptual elevations for not only the clubhouse, the attached product, but also the other residential homes within the proposed development. Any homes up against the arterial street, Amity will have to provide a mix of materials and articulation and modulation in the proposed facades. Staff did receive written testimony from Matt Schultz in response to the staff report, and because the applicant is exceeding the open space standards, the amenities package per the UDC, staff is supportive of the requested step up, and we are recommending approval of this project. With that, I'll conclude my presentation and stand for any questions the commission may have.
Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Pereira?
Bill, do you have anything that shows where that Beasley lateral runs across the site?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I don't, but I would presume that it's running along the south boundary here, will be redirected here and then funnel into this irrigation pond. But I think the applicant could probably shed some light on that for you in his presentation.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening. Matt Schultz, 8421 South 10 Mile Meridian, here on behalf of Berkeley Building Company, who is under contract with the Warwick family to purchase this property if we can get this approved. And I was excited to hear that Joe Atala, he's not able to be here tonight, the president of Berkeley, was able to get this piece. I love South Meridian. I've done a lot of work down here and was excited to help him with the project. I've done 2 other projects for Berkeley over the last few years. One was the entrance to Sutherland Farm. We did 5 acres, 33 lots. We also did one called the Pond Subdivision, which is now Settlers Lane on Meridian up near Ustick. And Berkeley is excited to have one that has enough size to it now to be more of a showcase project instead of more of an infill, where you don't have an opportunity to do the amenities and do the product mix that this one affords of the size. It's a little two-edged sword in terms of it's a lot more expensive, a lot more issues, but he is nevertheless excited to be able to show off this project, and so am I, with Berkeley Building Company taking the lead, and he may invite a few of his partner builders that he's comfortable working around to share in this. But Berkeley does have a product type that ranges from some of the less large, more efficient lot sizes that we saw in the Pond and Sutherland, and he also builds on some builder teams such as Reflection Ridge on some of the bigger stuff, and this one allows him to basically demonstrate his whole portfolio to provide, not just more lots, but greater price point differentiation, which is really what we need, I think, in Meridian. We're going through a comp plan review right now, and I'm on one of the steering committees where that's a big deal, the diversity and the affordability word, which is still hard to get, but it does give us a little more opportunity to get closer to 300,000, which I don't know if it's affordable or not, but that's just kind of what we're challenged with in this market when we pay retail for land and utilities and everything else, and when you get out of it, you'd still be affordable is tough. Nevertheless, proud to represent this project. There is somehow, some way, the southwest corner of Amity and Eagle this 80 acres got designated low density whenever they did so. Amity's a 5-lane arterial, or will be. It will be a 5-lane arterial. Eagle obviously is, if you look at it in the bigger context of basically Eagle being over here a little bit off the page. Yeah, here we are. So that's roughly about 80 acres there, and we're not representing that parcel, but someday it will come into, and I hear Albertsons is right here across the street a little ways. Tuscany has also a blend of product sizes. We've got a little blend of product sizes. We think what we're doing is definitely appropriate, especially if the end result is around that 3.6 to the acre. It's a pretty slight bump up, and it's my contention, and hopefully it gets in the new comp plan update that 0 to 3 really means 0 to 3.5. Even though we're a little bit over that, I think you really should allow that up to 3.5 for low. Although we're a little bit over that still here, I think it's a big deal on some of these bigger projects. So with that said, some of the key, if you can go back to the overall color plan, please, Bill. Some of the key, I guess, development issues that pop up on this. We do have a 2.5 acre park. We have an open area that's about an acre, a little bit less than an acre, which is quite large. You know, it's 230 by 170. You know, that the developer, the builder chose to use that as amenity instead of, you know, hey, we're providing a very, very expensive several $100,000 pool and clubhouse facility. Do we really want a playground? Do we really need a playground? Is that my market? Is that my target? And he said, no, it's really not. We'd rather just do a big open space area, some pathways and, you know, some benches and use that as one of our amenities in addition to the pool and clubhouse. So he made a conscious decision not to. I've always put a playground in. Is it required at a minimum that we do playgrounds on all sites? You know, it's kind of a marketing decision for him, and he chose not to. It's kind of a philosophical question that he chose that he could, but he doesn't really choose to on the playground. We are proposing to put in the, there we go, the 10-foot regional pathway all along here, along the west side of the 10 Mile Creek, per the City Meridian's park standards. The fencing issue that came up is an interesting one. We are proposing a fence at the back of our lots, you know, your 6-foot wrought iron fence. Along these drains, the drain side of the pathways aren't fenced. You know, if you look at the regional pathways, what we do fence, or where we have parallel fences, if you will, is along the Ride and Ball Canal, or those deliveries, those concrete delivery facilities. That's where we double fence. But all along all these drains through Tuscany and elsewhere, you have a fence at the back of the lots, and the side that's along the drains open. So when I saw that from staff, I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. Nobody's ever really asked for a double fence along the drains before. If that's something that the council wants, so be it. But it's just not how things have been done along these natural. This is the 10 Mile Creek along these natural drains. It's pretty low flow in this area, you know, except for especially up here upstream of the Ride and Ball Canal. In the spring, the Ride and Ball Canal dumps a bunch of water, and that gets pretty high north of the Ride and Ball, but south of the Ride and Ball, with all this acreage being taken out of farm ground, it's pretty low flow in the 10 Mile Creek. It's just kind of a natural, you know, the cattails and, you know, kind of a trickle down through there. So it's not a big hazardous raging river, you know, type of facility like these canals can tend to be at certain times of the year. So it's whatever the council wants to do on that. ACHD in the staff report, you'll notice they didn't like where this was located, even though they told me to put it in the middle originally, which I did. There's 2 parcels over here. There's one around the house, or another one. They thought that was kind of an awkward position if this other parcel were to develop independent of the rest, even though they're by the same owner. I said, okay, fine, we'll move it. So they conditioned us to move it right in here. So it's an easy adjustment just to kind of move it down about 400 feet. Just if it's just a more convenient place for that road to go through later, for whatever reason, I just said it's an easy move. Okay, we'll move it. It's not a big deal. As far as the Beasley lateral, it comes in through Sky Mesa down here, and it diagonals across, and it runs along over here. Oops. Oh, whoops. There we go. It runs over here, then it runs up the property line, and there's a couple of, there's a historical weir right here built in 1920 with some lava rock that I think this Beasley lateral was built in the 1920-ish time frame. It used to deliver water for hundreds of acres. Now there is only, downstream of us, there is 1/2 acre over here on the other side of White Bark that takes water. That's it. There's 1/2 acre that still takes water out of the Beasley downstream of us. And the rest of it wastes north to the 10 Mile Creek. That's it. So we've contacted them and said, hey, can we provide you pressure irrigation service? Can we, you know, at a minimum, oops, that was me. At a minimum, we're looking, if we had to keep that maintained, we'd run it down through here and over. You know, we would relocate it and run it to him in a 12-inch pipe. We'd ask the Boise Board of Project Control, which is a federal agency, to relinquish their huge easement for, which is literally a trickle of water now. And the majority of the water can go to the 10 Mile Creek, just like it currently goes north of here. We'd go to here, go through the pond, be the feed for a regional irrigation pump station that the New York Irrigation District has requested to serve the entire 80 acres, of which we're the first 37 in that. So we haven't quite figured out exactly where that's going to go yet, but we have options. It could run at the back of these lots, which we don't want to do. I'd rather run it through the open space and get it over there. I'd rather really just divert it all to here, you know. And so we've got, as we get into the engineering and work with that neighbor, we'll figure out exactly where that needs to go. And there's plenty of agencies that have jurisdiction, because right now it's a 30-foot easement under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Reclamation. There's quite a bit of bureaucracy to relocate that, which will take about a year. And in the meantime, our first phase avoids it, and it'll give us time to work all that out, where that's really going to go. Our first phase will have a secondary access. Anything over 30 lots needs a secondary access. We do have an existing, it's not shown here as existing, but this is existing now to White Bark. That's an existing, this is built now, even though this area's old. So we are going to connect to that, and then this phase of Sky Mesa is under construction right now. That's going to provide that stub street to the south. So we're well accessed, and then we have our bridge for future access. So that bridge we will design, we will get a good price for it, and then we put up 50% of that with ACHD, and it will, whoever comes in on this side takes that money 10 years from now or whenever and builds the bridge. We did the same, we're doing the same thing on Wells across the street, but we were the second guys in, so we get to build a bridge this winter. Going into Tuscany for Wells right across the street right now. Brighton put up some money. So speaking of bridges, there is an existing flood zone, and it's not a bridge, it's a 36-inch pipe underneath Amity Road. The flood zone's quite wide through here, more so on our neighbor than us. It also is on our neighbors across the street. Tuscany remapped it and showed that it was all contained in the 10 Mile Creek. FEMA does a broad brush, and then a developer comes back and does a very exact topographic survey and does an analysis and submits it to FEMA. They revise it. Well, it was never revised from about where my mouse pointer is south. It was never been revised yet. So the heavy lifting that we're going to do in conjunction with ACHD is to build a bridge culvert underneath Amity to what is now the flood flow overtops that road, because that 36-inch pipe can't convey 300 CFS, which nobody's ever seen yet, but you know, it could happen in the 100-year event. And so like the Wells Bridge ended up being a 9-foot high by 14-foot wide box culvert, you know, spanning the creek. And that lets the flow go through without constricting it. Everybody's happy, and we would go back and remap the flood zone to have it all in the creek and improve everybody's flood insurance issues. We got 4 different owners here. We're the first guy in. It will need some cooperation, though, from the owners, you know, in terms of easement to build that culvert. You know, it can't all be on our, we kind of share a property line right there, and between ACHD and us, we're going to cost share on that culvert. ACHD is taking the lion's share of it, and then any kind of right-of-way needed would be compensated for, you know, fair market value, which is what we do, and hopefully everybody's happy when this is all done. You know, that's the plan. We don't make things worse, we make things better when we come in, and that's what we do. As far as the average lot sizes, like Bill said, we're about 6,000 square feet in the R8 for average lot size. We're about 9,000 square feet in the R4 section for lot size. Our average is around 7,600. Wide variety of product type ranging from, I wrote this down a long time ago. That's why I bring my application here. So yeah, 1,300 square feet to 1,550 on some of the attached here in the middle. And then the remaining in the R8 will be detached. Well, those will be attached. The remaining will be detached in the R8, ranging from 1,350 to 2,200. And then as you go south into the R4, those will range from about 2,000 to 4,000 square feet on those bigger lots. So I think it's kind of cool to be able to do a variety in one project, and to try to hit it and not sacrifice the amenities. And, you know, and everybody gets to share in the same upscale amenity that we're providing. in an area that you really need to compete anyways with with everybody else that's done pools on some bigger ones, like Sky Mesa is a much bigger one, and Hill Century Farm, and Tuscany, which was already built out, but Tuscany, I think they have 4 pools for 1,000 lots. That's another point. We only have 130 lots for 1 pool, so it's a better ratio. But it all comes down to the size of the pool, I know. But it seems like anytime you get over 100 residents on one pool, if you get 200, they start squawking for another one. It's too small or whatever. But so it is a nice ratio of homes to pool, I think. It's healthy, and we're excited to represent it and fix some of these infrastructure issues that developers fix, and do. It's kind of some heavy lifting, but we're prepared to do it, to make it all right out there on the culvert, as well as some of the irrigation issues. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
So Matt, so staff has actually conditioned the playground. Are you asking that be removed? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Earsley, there was a little mistake in the original staff report that we were providing a tot lot, and we actually provided an open play area, and I pointed it out to staff, hey, we didn't propose one, it's not in our color rendering, there is no playground. And that's when, oh, well, we think you should provide one. Okay, that's fine. So we're asking to be approved as submitted, the way we submitted it, and we think we've provided these open spaces that the minimum's 50 by 100. We provided one that's several times that size to be more of a open play area instead of a focused little one. So yeah, we're asking. Hopefully it's not a cause for denial, but if you do, if you want to keep that in your condition of approval moving forward, your recommendation, we'd be happy to go along with that moving forward as far as your recommendation that we keep it, but we're not proposing to change right now.
Okay.
So you said you didn't want one because of your market. What is your targeted market for these homes?
What you're seeing out there's a lot of people that want to downsize, and they're kind of not. I mean, there'll be some families in here, no doubt.
Yeah.
There will be some, but there's just not the ratios are much different now in terms of downsizing. They still want the same quality. The price isn't really an issue. They just don't want the big yard, and they don't have a lot of kids or any. So that's a market that is being satisfied by him very successfully right now in some other areas that he'd like to continue here in South Meridian, which is obviously a very desirable location to live. So,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
Bill, could you bring up the landscape rendering again? Thank you. Matt, was there any consideration made to put a green space or a buffer between the, I don't know, I don't think these are townhouse lots, right there near where your mouse is there, right in that area.
Between the R4 and the R8?
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't think there's it's an issue to have a little bit different lot sizes. We think they're not they should be separated as much. They'd be like, oh, those are worse, or those should be separated, and I think they're compatible, even though they're not 1-to-1 lined up on lot sizes. 1.5 or whatever it is isn't bad. So we have over 15% already open space, so we're not lacking in places to put it. And so in that regard, we thought we had a pretty robust landscape plan. And what happens in those areas, although it might seem like a good idea, they become no man's lands or places that are hard to police, especially with the pathway. So I like to keep my pathways short now that I think about it. And our new police, can't remember his name right now. He's really on that lately too. So I think that might become one of those areas that might be more of a policing issue if we did propose that.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Holland.
Just a quick clarification. So the attached product, I'm assuming just by the look of the lot sizes, is probably going to be what's around the park for the most part?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Holland, it's been a while since I've submitted this, but I believe it could be here as well, around the park and right there. But he's also leaving an option. He wants to have the option. He's working on some detached 40-foot product, but he also is working on attached. And the staff's got a condition that if you are going to go attached on the final plat, and on the plat you need to show what is your common zero lot line, if you will. And so he's leaning towards doing it, but he wants to, he might mix in some detached as well in there, so. It allows them to do another extra 5 feet is what it does if you attach them, on that same size lot.
Yeah. Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley.
You probably know this better than I do since, does Tuscany have a fence between their pathway and the canal?
No, Madam Chair and Commissioner Yearsley, they don't.
Okay.
And no pathways that I've been involved with along a natural drain or creek have had them,
Okay.
in my experience.
And that's what I thought, but I couldn't
Yeah.
remember.
No, they're open, they're natural. Even the ones that are, this is a city pathway, and there's plenty of city pathways where they are open along these creeks, and 10 Mile Creek especially, as you go north, they're open. I'm thinking of through the south part of Tuscany, and I don't remember on the north part of Tuscany, which was done 12, 13 years ago, if they had double fences or not, but I know on the south, next to Wells, there is not. Where we're building the bridge, there is not extra fence.
Yeah, and by the park and through that area, there's no fence between the canal or the drain
Right.
and that as well, so,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Matt. Any public testimony, Chris?
Madam Chair, there's one person signed in, Stephen Stark.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Stark, and my address is 2630 East Amity Road. And my wife Kathy Stark and I own a home with 3 acres. It's directly across the subdivision, across the street on the north side of Amity there. And I have 2 things I'd like to talk about. One thing is we went to the neighborhood meeting and there was no talk about attached homes at all. So I was pretty surprised when you brought that up. And I noticed there were no pictures of attached homes, only pictures of houses and stuff. So I think there's a place for attached homes, but not in the was previously low density. I mean, we understood that there were going to be some smaller lots, and we know the new R8 is a small lot and stuff, but I think attached homes is inappropriate for this part of town. There's not another that I know of, anything close around that's like that. The other thing is, I was wondering if it's possible to get a picture of a corner of our property up here where I can point something out. And what he talked about was the replacement of the culvert. And the floodplain is along the culvert there, along the creek, and it's on our property. And where they're talking about replacing that culvert, there's presently a 40-inch pipe culvert goes underneath Amity. And about 100 feet down the road, where the Meridian path comes along, is another 40-inch culvert. So if you open this culvert up, 9 foot by 18 foot, I heard him say was an example, and leave that 40-inch culvert, all that additional water is coming onto our property. It's going to increase our floodplain. Our structure's not in the floodplain, and it will be. It was a very close call that our structure's out of the floodplain. When Tuscany developed, they did the entire study of the area. FEMA decided that we were in the floodplain when we weren't. It took us a long time to get it all straightened out. We had to buy flood insurance. We ended up getting the flood insurance off our property, and it all settled down. And I'm 100% positive that if you open up one side and then 100 feet down the road, you don't open up that side, it's going to create a massive problem for us on our property. And in fact, I heard him say that the majority of the water of that open ditch is going to run over to the 10 Mile, and so it's going to be even higher than it is presently. So that is a big problem for me. And so my request is that an off-site condition be put in to increase the culvert underneath the Meridian bike path to equal the culvert going underneath Amity. That way it's neutral effect on our property. So whatever however they do it, I would like a neutral effect on our property as far as increasing the floodplain on our property. I also would like to request that on note 2 of the plans, it talks about after the culverts increase, that the base flood elevations will be evaluated. I would like to add that after the culvert is changed and the second culvert is changed, then we evaluate the base elevations. Because if they just replace the culvert on Amity and then do an evaluation, we're in the flood zone. So that is the end of my requests. And any questions for me?
Any questions for this? Okay. Thank you. Anybody else in the room who wishes to testify in this application? Certainly.
Thank you. My name's Kathy Stark. I live at 2630 East Amity Road. And where he's talking about is that 10-mile creek or drain, whatever we want to call it, flows onto our property. So it's just the corner of our property. So at the corner there, it exits our property underneath the path that goes along the Tuscany walkway. And so it's just a small stretch that's actually on our property. But there's two culverts on there. You know, there's one coming underneath Amity and one exiting our property going on down the way where he's talking about where the wells is. So that same waterway goes down by the wells. And it's imperative to us that we don't increase our floodplain and cause us that grief. In addition to that, he's correct. We did not, at the neighborhood meeting, there was no mention of attached homes. It was all, and the new R8 is quite small, and that area is designated low density, and I wouldn't consider attached homes low density. So, and when we talked to them, there was, you know, people like small lots. Well, if I can jump from roof to roof, I don't really care for it myself. And so I think that's inappropriate for our area. So I would request that they can't have attached homes, no attached homes, and that whatever they do does not increase the water level in the 10-mile creek to where it would affect landowners beyond them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, excuse me.
Sure. Oh,
I have a question. That second culvert is not on your property, is that correct?
No, well, actually, it is. Because this picture doesn't show it. I requested some pictures from my sweet husband, but I don't think we got them. Let me see here. So, you see.
Please speak into the. Please speak into the mic.
I'm sorry.
You can bend the mic down to you.
Do you see where this black plastic was? That was when Tuscany was developing. You know, they make them put that up. Underneath there, where those white rocks are, that's where there's another culvert that goes through to right over here. I don't know how to show
But that culvert's on the other side of that fence. I assumed that your property doesn't go across that fence. Is that
Our
correct?
Our property is right here, and this is
Okay.
where that the culvert. You know, honey, is the pipe on our does it touch our property?
Okay.
So our fence line, is right here, and it's
And the
really
pipe
hard
is
to,
on the other
hard
side.
to see. These rocks are on the other side, so that's whoever owns that. But we should have brought the picture. It actually touches. I mean, our grandkids could walk under that if there were more water in it.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, so the pipe touches your property, but it doesn't span across your property.
No, it goes underneath.
Okay.
It goes right underneath, right under here.
Yep.
And across to where that other green snake is,
Yep, that's what I was thinking. Thank you.
right there.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Yes, Matt Schultz for the record. Appreciate the Starks coming. I remember talking about attached, but my memory's shot, and it was about 6 months ago. But nevertheless, I don't think, would I do it as a builder? I don't know. I don't think it's bad, especially since it's owned. It's not a duplex where it's a rental. It's just, like I said, you're able to go 5 foot wider even if you go attached. Then it just adds a little bit of architectural differential. Will people pay as much for that? I don't know. It's not my choice. I'm a land guy, not a house guy. And Berkeley Building Company wants the flexibility to attach those. He has shown some, he's an architect and he can draw up some cool stuff, and he likes building the cool stuff, and it's an option he would like to have. And it is allowed per your code in the R8. I mean, the zero lot line is allowed. It's an allowed condition. We just need to show it on the plat. As far as the flood zone is concerned, it's an interesting situation that I saw as well. We've got 2 culverts. And obviously, if you open up one and just let it go onto a smaller one downstream, you've just kind of, you got a problem still. I mean, so it's never been our intent to ignore that, to open it up and not do it. All of these owners, including the Starks, this is a subdivision right next to us. They kind of, I'm not sure how they got out of dealing with it, but they did. Castle Creek, they were approved 5 years ago. They haven't built yet, but they're going to here soon. And then there's us, and then our other neighbor. We all need to work together, and we're willing to go to bat and work out. Do you have an aerial, Bill? Like maybe like Google? Do you have that Google aerial just come off the street view? Basically this triangle in here, and obviously they want the path not to go on their side. They want it to cross, which is fine. But in doing so, we've incurred the cost of either an extra long culvert, just one continuous to fill that in, or 2. It might be more cost efficient to do an extra long one, and have that pathway just kind of come over through here and come back out where it is. Might be some efficiency, but then again, like I said in my initial testimony, I'm looking forward to working with all my neighbors to design this to make sure everybody comes out of this better than we started. And we're going to run the letter of map revision after we design the culverts to show that it's all contained in the ditch. And right now, I was looking on it. I think that flood zone, at least on my map, probably goes real close to the front door. I mean, right now. We haven't even showed up yet and done anything. I mean, so we want to take that flood zone, move it away from his front door, and put it all the way back into the creek where it belongs. And by doing the appropriately sized culvert, we're confident with the studies that have been done downstream and even through Hill Century Farm, that as long as you don't have a constriction, that 100-year flow will stay in the creek. And you can remap it, submit to FEMA, you show them all the technical documents, and they draw the swath through the creek now, and they revise it. So not only are we going to do the heavy lifting of the work and work out this interesting situation we have of a double culvert to make sure nobody gets hurt, but we're also going to, when we're all done or in conjunction with, we will run it through the Federal Emergency Management Agency and get the letters, the maps revised to get it down in there. So I think it's a good thing that we're here, and that's usually what happens. It takes one guy that has something to gain over here that does the heavy lifting to get in one of these situations that nobody wants to do. Now, ACHD has told me they'll pay 90% of this as long as we can build out to the 5-lane future full culvert length, and that's where some right-of-way comes into play. We're just not going to replace it here. It needs to extend out, and if you're already extended it out, you might as well extend it the whole way. And how that splits up in the end for us, because ACHG is going to say, well, that's your problem, on the second culvert, and I'm going to go, okay, that's fine. Maybe it's a 70-30 split of the whole thing instead of a 90-10. Whatever it is. We're here to make it right. And so we're going to work through that, and we're confident we can work through that with the consultants we have and with the will that we have to get this done and make it a good thing for everybody. So that's all.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Holland.
I move we close the public hearing for 2018-0115.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0115. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, we've got a
Madam Chair.
few, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a
Commissioner Pro.
question for staff.
Uh-huh.
Bill, can you shed some light on why the recommendation was made for the play equipment?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, certainly, I think Matt kind of alluded to it. Originally, Staff was under the impression that there was a play structure as part of their request. That did not happen. We erred. So at that point, we decided, you know, it makes sense. We know our commission or our council is big on tot lots as part of developments. We want to make it inclusionary for everyone. So staff went ahead and made it a recommended provision of the development agreement that they add an additional amenity. Certainly, if the commission feels that there's adequate amenities with this proposed subdivision, you can certainly recommend or strike that requirement for the tot lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think I could go either way with or without the tot lot. I mean, if it's a deal breaker for the commission or the council, I guess they can have it. I do think the type of homes that, especially the ones that are closest around there, do tend to attract more empty nester type people. And then you've got lots on the other end that are probably big enough to have their own swing set. So I could go either way because I think the amenity package is nice as it is.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley.
I agree. I don't know if I necessarily think that we need to have a tot lot on this property. With some of the comments that were brought up about attached homes, there actually are attached homes in this area. The Sovey subdivision, which just is north of Tuscany off of Eagle Road, has multiple attached homes, and you really can't tell that they're attached homes. And so I don't know if I think that they're necessarily a bad thing. It looks like just a big house. I mean, with the smaller homes like this, most times your attached homes are a single story. And so it actually looks fairly, it looks like a good product. With regards to the culverts and the flooding, I do appreciate Matt's willingness to work with his neighbors. At this point, we cannot put that condition that that second culvert be replaced by him because it's actually not on his property, and we can't force him to, but his willingness to work with the 4 adjacent neighbors to NACHD to try to get that to the best solution as possible, I think is commendable. So with that, I would recommend approval.
Commissioner Holland.
Madam Chair, I don't see a lot of concerns either. I appreciate that they are a little bit over what the recommended or requirement is for amount of open space. I always like when they put more open space when they need to. I'm kind of one way or another on the tot lot as well. There's certainly a nice amenity to neighborhoods, but with a pool and a clubhouse, that's also a nice amenity that not all neighborhoods have. So, you know, if council decides they want to include the tot lot, I don't think it's a deal breaker one way or another. The attached home products, I always think it's interesting when you've got such a wide variety of housing products, but I tend to agree with what your comments were just a minute ago, that they don't tend to look like bad products, and I'd rather see some of those attached products than have the really tall, skinny houses that just are maximizing all the square footage they possibly can. I don't think we need to make a condition about fencing the creek either. I haven't seen that in a lot of neighborhoods. I'm not too worried about that. And I agree on the drainage. I think it's generous of him to work with the neighbors, and sounds like he's got a plan to make sure they accommodate the neighbors across the street as well as the future developers for the area.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
I agree with Commissioner Holland. One thing I wanted to add regarding the attached homes, I think they suit this development well, but because housing prices are increasing at such a rapid rate, we are seeing individuals buying homes that are attached and that are what they're calling garden homes that maybe don't fit the typical empty nester or single individual or married couple, young married couple type of concept, because the prices are pushing families into those smaller types of homes. And so I think you're going to see that shift pretty significantly over the next few years. And because that's the case, I mean, I think it's fantastic that they chose to put the location of those around the common area, because that is the case. I agree. I don't know that it necessarily necessitates requiring them to put a tot lot in. But I think we could see a variety of different, groups living in this area, not just maybe the individuals who typically buy the attached properties.
Yeah, I think my bigger concern is that, yes, given, the R8 zoning, it always sends a red flag up to me the minute I start reading, and they said requests a step up in zoning. But I think if we can keep it at the 3.6, which is just barely over the R4, I think that doesn't cause near as much heartburn for me as some of the others that we've seen. And I think the variety of homes in the neighborhood lends itself, just brings in a nice mix of purchasers.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H 2018-0115 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date is December 6, 2018, with the following modification that the tot lot be removed and not need to be constructed.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval of H-2018-0115 with modification. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I know we have one more motion, but I'd like to say one more thing. Hi, Dad. All right.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Holland.
I move we adjourn for the hearing date of Thursday, December 6, 2018.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.